Okay, so we're gonna move on to learning how to jump back and jump forward. So jump back from Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift, and jump back into Chaturanga Dandasana. Ardha Uttanasana is an inhale, exhale Chaturanga Dandasana. Let me first say that this is a drill that you can do, and know that the techniques will help you now, but over time is how strength is built. So you can't expect yourself to build muscle today. Muscle has to break down in order to build up. So that means what we can get now is the techniques, and that will help. And then the repetition over time will help you build strength. But also want to say that even if this never enters into your yoga practice and you never do a jump back ever, that doesn't mean that you're not an advanced yogi. Advanced means self-awareness, to be self-reflective. This is what yoga is all about. So if you are constantly studying the biomechanics of how my shoulders move and how my abdominals engage and all the different aspects, that is the yoga practice. What I want to do is offer this to you as a way for you to self-reflect. What is weak? Can I build strength? What am I unaware of? Can I become aware of that? That is the purpose of our asana practice. Okay, so not the outcome, but that being said, you might find some success here. And what I have is a blanket. I have a yoga blanket. I'm fortunate enough to have that. Most people don't. So my recommendation is thick socks, soft socks, something slippery. And if your floor is not slippery, then you have to figure out a way to make do. There is ways that you can get little. If you're on a carpet, you can get these little plastic things to slide. Even 2 paper plates underneath your feet on a carpet will help slide. Okay, on a wood floor is the easiest with socks or a blanket. What we're gonna do is take away the jump, okay? So take away the jump, but add a slide so we can really work on the biomechanics of this. So the first thing is understanding where we're jumping to. So Chaturanga, if you watch those videos, hopefully you did, and you studied them and you got them into your body at the wall like I showed you. But the idea is you take your arms and you create this wax-off technique, which is external rotation of the humerus. If the hands are on the ground, it feels like you're opening 2 jars. And then as a result of externally rotating, if your hands are on the ground, what will happen is you'll get, your elbows will roll kind of inward. But that's not to be confused with putting the elbows in, which narrows the chest like this. It's just rolling humerus externally, okay? Then the next step is to push, protract, which contracts the pectoral muscles as you protract your serratus muscles. Serratus anterior activates to separate your shoulder blades, and the pectoral muscles will assist in drawing the energy inward like this. Okay, so you have pectorals, serratus, and your triceps are stopping you from bending too soon. Now this is all very contrast to when you go into Cobra, which is the exact opposite. In Cobra, we're gonna release all of the serratus anterior, release the pectorals, and your triceps stay engaged, and then draw the chest through, okay? So first let's isolate jump to Chaturanga through slide back, and then I'll show you how Cobra is exactly the opposite. So what we need to do, I recommend if you've got wood floor, I'm gonna go against the grain for the camera purposes, but going with the grain of the wood is easiest. First, you place your hands on the ground wherever they go, so that might be pretty far out in front for you, and you turn your hands out. You notice my hands are pretty wide, about outer shoulder width apart. That's gonna help recruit the pectoral major muscles. Okay, I lean forward with my chest, fingers grip, 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 and then I slowly slide the blanket back into a plank position, and then slowly pull it forward like I'm doing a jump forward, okay? Now you slide the blanket back by gripping the ground, rounding. You see my upper back is completely full and shoulder blades are apart here. That's just kind of learning how to slide while the upper body is active. So serratus anterior is what protracts the scapula. Now adding a bent elbow makes it hard to keep the serratus anterior engaged. So as soon as we start bending the elbow, what happens is our body starts doing this pulling action where the shoulder blades would normally retract. Now, if you watch the Chaturanga video, you notice that I said the shoulder blades are supposed to retract. They do this pulling action. But what slows the descent is the activation of the opposing muscles called the serratus anterior. So our muscular system is trying to push into protraction while the structural bones and joints are actually moving in this direction. Okay, so it's confusing because those are opposite things. The hands go to the ground. Now adding on, we try to bend the elbows. So lean and look forward and micro bend the elbows to start, then slide the legs back and you're right in that chaturanga position. Then straighten the arms and rise and bring it forward. Okay, so maybe just watch one time. You're gonna see that what I do first is I bend the elbows, bend my knees, lean forward, then I slide back and I'm right in that chaturanga position. Elbows are in, hands are dialing out, shoulder blades are pushing. Okay, and then release. The other thing you're gonna notice that when I'm doing this is that I don't bend the elbow 90 degrees. So on my jump backs, I never go low. I'm gonna show you a full jump back without this, because when you go too low, you lose power and strength. When you stay upward, when you stay upright, you see how it's just a micro, it's not down here. This would be a loss of power. Not to say that's bad, that's excellent, but it's way more advanced, okay, to really bend and go low and still maintain contraction of the musculature that slows you down, okay? So my suggestion is, and this will prepare you for most arm balances, is that you just have a micro bend in the elbow, very small bend in the elbow when you land in chaturanga, just enough to kind of absorb as your body weight's going back, to absorb a little bit of the weight forward. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to advance upon that, but you may not be ready just yet. This might be something that you revisit later in the training as you've done more slide backs the way we just did. But as a visual and as an advancement upon what I just showed you, you can place blocks behind your forearms. So watch as I come to all fours to initiate. Again, hands wide, fingers turned out will help the wrist too, by the way. Fingers grip the ground like crazy to strengthen the forearm muscles. I just nudge the block so I know that I'm vertical here. Now, come up into Ardha Uttanasana. Those of you that did my handstand training, you know that this is called handstand prep position. When you're really in this vertical position with your arms and you're bearing all the weight. Now, as I bend the knees a little bit, I lean the chest forward and micro bend the elbows right here. And why are the blocks there? The blocks are there in order to understand if when I jumped my feet back, did I also shift my weight back? And if I did, that's what makes jumping back heavy, okay? What makes jumping back light is leaning the opposite direction of where your weight is going, forward. Hope that's clear. If you want to unfold your body from a forward fold position, then whatever goes back, something has to go forward at the same time and the weight stays even and light. If I just go back with the legs, boom, it's gonna get heavy. Let me show you both. The camera might shake if I jump back. So if I lean back, when I jump into chaturanga, you'll see this, ready? That's hard for me to exaggerate that, I guess. That's something like it right there. You see the arm comes on this angle here and the weight drops right into my feet and you'll feel the camera probably bounced. Instead, watch how I unfold my body and I lean forward. Fingers grip, externally rotate like you're opening jars, lean the heart forward, send the legs back. It's a lot simpler, a lot easier than most people make it. It just requires repetition and strength. So let's go over the key points. The fingers grip the ground, hands wide turned out. So fingers grip is the muscle activation. The placement is that your hands are wider than shoulder width apart and your fingers are turned out. That will give you more range of motion. Now that's the prep. As you slide your feet back, lean the upper body forward and maintain these muscle activations. Externally rotate like you're dialing outward and try to push from the serratus anterior, protract your shoulder blades and try to straighten the elbow from the muscular system. While the joints, the elbow bends a little bit and the shoulder blades move toward each other. So the joints are doing one thing, the muscles are trying to oppose it, and that's what makes it slow down. If I don't oppose what the joints are doing, then I would just literally fall on the ground quickly. Okay, that's what we're essentially trying to do. So let's move on. I'll come back to that in a moment, but let's move on now from down dog, jump forward to Uttanasana. In order to jump forward into Uttanasana, there are two main things, the shoulder girdle and the legs. The shoulders, the idea, just like down dog, is to push shoulders to the ears and pull the ribs back as much as you can. Okay, in down dog, we pull the ribs back, but not as much as we can. However, when we transition, we really have to go into this push activation in order to make it light. So round one, we go from small down dog on blanket, small down dog on blanket, and all you do is grip the ground with your fingers, round the back and lean forward, then push, 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 and drag your blanket or your socks forward. And then you go back into a small down dog. So in down dog, of course, you would be, forearms would be hitting the imaginary blocks right now. So I lean forward, imagining that the block is right behind the forearm. And then I round my back and then I drag forward. Okay, let's do it one more time. Short down dog. There's Tito. Grip the ground with your fingertips, round the back, lean forward, and pull, push, 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 push with your shoulders to the ears. Okay, so that's round one. The next step is to take a longer down dog and to incorporate some leg actions. The leg actions for Uttanasana, standing forward fold. My suggestion is make sure that you have warmed up for this. So if you are visiting this on day 2, make sure you do day 1 practice. So if you're not completing this all in one day, then you probably are cool, and this will be too deep of a stretch for you. So make sure you do a warm up first. You take your hands on blocks, bend your knees, and lift into like kind of what I consider to be like a American football player stance. Your feet are wide, and then push the heels outward isometrically so you feel your outer hip muscles engage, and lift the buttock bones, that's your sit bones here, your ischial tuberosities, lift up to the sky until you feel a lengthening of your hamstrings. So the muscle activation, push the heels out and arc or use your low back muscles to pull the back of your pelvis up. We're in what's called anterior tilt of the pelvis, meaning the front of the pelvis is tipping towards the front of the body. Anterior front of the body, tilt of the pelvis. So as we're in anterior tilt of the pelvis, you're pressing the back of your hamstrings apart and almost spinning the front of the legs inward. Now what this does is if you push the back of your legs apart and spin the front of your legs inward, you'll start to feel a muscle called TFL, which is right here on the outer front of the hip if you're still anterior tilting and pressing the backs of the legs apart. Tensor fascia lata. TFL is a hip flexor and an internal rotator. I'll say it one more time. TFL, tensor fascia lata, or tensor fascia latae, is a hip flexor and an internal rotator. When it engages, it helps to bring the thighs close to the chest, or flex the hips. When the thighs come close to the chest, that's called flexion at the hip joint. Why that's important is because the closer your legs are to your chest, the greater the flexion, the lighter your legs are according to your body. So if I held something, to explain this better, out to the side, this would be heavy far away. If I bring it close in, it's light. Same is true with my legs. If I bring my legs close into my chest, it's light. If my legs are far away on the jump back, on the jump forward, if my legs don't come close to my chest, then I'm heavy. So think about, this block is light, but what if I held a plant out here? It would be very heavy, but if I held it in close, it would be light. This is a concept that is super important to know. So when I jump forward, if my thighs don't come close to my chest, it's gonna be heavy no matter how strong my upper body is, no matter what gender I am, no matter what my athletic experience is. If my thighs don't come close to my chest, it is heavy. So watch again. Now this of course requires flexibility in the hamstrings, but the strength of your TFL and your other hip flexors, sticking your buttocks up like anterior tilt, can start to outweigh whatever tightnesses you have. You may keep your knees bent. I'll show it with knees bent, but thighs have to become close to the chest. Watch again. See how my thighs are on my chest? Now what does that again? TFL, tensor fascia lata, is a hip flexor that will pull the legs tight into the chest. To activate the hip flexors again and to strengthen them, you might be asking, well, how do I strengthen TFL? I just told you. So you get into Uttanasana, you press the backs of your heels apart, and you stick your buttocks up to the sky as you try to straighten your legs. So when you straighten the legs, the hamstrings will pull the tension on the pelvis into posterior tilt. If you activate your TFL, your tensor fascia lata, it will pull the hamstrings up to the sky, and you'll start to strengthen your TFL against the tension of the hamstrings. So your body becomes not only stronger, but more intelligent. It learns how to work with itself, okay? So push the backs of the legs apart and lift the sit bones or press the buttocks to the sky. This strengthens. Your next step would be to take your hands lower. Maybe the blocks go lower first step. Maybe you go next step. Okay, and then perhaps in a few weeks, a month from now, you've got fingertips, hands, and then eventually, you see how the pelvis is really in an anterior tilt here? Then you can start to lift the heels around the back and do these little touches, okay? Now that might be next week, might be today, might be next year, it might not be in this lifetime, but trying to understand how to activate TFL, that is the goal of the jump forwards as far as the lower body goes. In the upper body, trapezius to push the shoulders to the ears, and then abdominals and serratus connection. So that push energy, as you see here in my upper body, like a diver going into the pool. Okay, so now let's do a few slides where we're bringing the legs forward, focusing on turning the thighs in and squeezing them to the chest. Now again, for the drill, you may bend your knees and that might give you a lot more access, okay? So I start in a little bit longer of a down dog. I stick my butt up and turn my legs in, grip the ground, lean forward, squeeze thighs to chest, squeeze thighs to chest, and release. Now if you got a lot of space, you can just keep going with that, like just pull and wipe your floor a bunch of times, okay? And really work the hip flexor muscles. So you can do it a few more times, wherever you are. Turn your thighs in, stick your buttocks up, pull thighs to chest, grip the ground with your hands. Turn your thighs in, push shoulders to ears,
So you really get that push of the upper body.
Okay, so that's the jump forward. Now, let's go back to jump back for a second. And now we're going to work the jump back from Ardha Uttanasana into Chaturanga. And then place the knees down, soften the shoulder blades, and curl open into Cobra pose. So now we're trying to get all the transitions in there, okay? And you can have your blanket or your socks, whatever you got. Feet outer hip width apart. Inhale, halfway lift, and let's press the back of your hamstrings apart. Lift your buttocks up. Exhale, plant the palms. Again, hands are turned out, fingers are gripped. Lean forward, micro bend as you slide back, Chaturanga. Place the knees down, point your feet, soften now all the way, retract your scapula, and move your shoulders up to your ears to let the heart rest between your shoulder blades. Pull your chest forward and up. This will activate your upper back muscles. You'll feel the muscles behind your heart, and you'll probably even feel a little of openness or stretch of the chest if you do this properly. Then come to all fours, leading with your buttocks. Remember, when you tuck your toes, you're on socks or a blanket, so don't slide too far back. Remember that. Come up and pause. Now, prepare yourself. Grip your fingers into the ground, look forward, take a breath in. Lift your heels and squeeze the thighs to the chest as you exhale forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and bow. Let's finish the sun salutation. Rise all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. Hands to the heart, Samastitihi. Again, inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift. Plant the hands, fingers grip, lean forward, micro bend the elbows. Place the knees down, flip the toes, soften so shoulders go towards ears and back behind your chest. Inhale, pull the heart through, look up a little bit, and then all fours, tuck toes. Again, remember, you've got a blanket or socks, so mindful as you transition into your down dog. Okay, take a breath in and out. Lift the heels up, inhale, lean forward and grip the ground. Again, turn the thighs in as you squeeze in, push the shoulders to the ears. Halfway lift when you get there, inhale, stick your buttocks up, lift your hamstrings and press the backs of the legs apart. Exhale and bow. Inhale, rise to the sun, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hands to heart, Samastitihi. Okay, this is Surya Namaskar A with the slide backs and the slide forwards. All that's left is to remove the blanket, but don't change what you've gained. So you still want to feel like you're sliding. And that's the best part. If you have socks right now, you can just glide and still kind of slide, almost like you're hovering above. I'm going to show you, and maybe you do it with me after you watch the full Surya Namaskar A and how I just kind of glide the feet back, okay? Inhale, reach the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, bow to the earth, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Step back or hop back, Chaturanga. Oop, that was a little low for me. Flip knees, soften, shoulder blades. Inhale, curl heart up and forward and up. Exhale, all fours, tuck toes, downward facing dog. Fingers are active. Let's pretend I did my 3 breaths. I lift the heels up on the inhale, look forward. Empty the breath out, hop or step lightly. Halfway lift, fingertips. Press the backs of the legs apart. Exhale and bow. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hands to heart. Okay, so that is Surya Namaskar A in terms of giving you a little bit of technique within it. You are not expected, nor would I teach this much technique Like I wouldn't say press the backs of the legs apart, blah, 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 blah. You know, like I wouldn't give all that so much in a Surya Namaskar A unless I was teaching the breakdown of it, which I am right now. So don't necessarily memorize all the cues, just get them into your body for now. This section is about your practice, not your teaching. And then slowly over time, it'll become a part of your practice and it'll be natural to bring certain elements of it into your teaching. And at that point, it'll feel authentic to you. All right, so next you'll be learning how to teach Surya Namaskar A, and I look forward to sharing that with you. See you on the next one.